Well, Niall Dickson is the Chief Executive of the NHS Confederation. It represents all the different organisations in the NHS which commission and provide services. Good morning.
Good morning.
This sort of thing that we heard about there, where you're getting treatment outside of hospitals, that is presumably the right sort of thing to take the pressure off hospitals and reduce costs.
It's absolutely the right thing, but I think, as your piece showed, it is quite challenging. And I think that this document, which is out today, and reflects some of these pilots that are going on, could be one of the biggest changes that we've seen in the way healthcare is delivered. We're trying to move from a 20th century approach, which tends to see people be admitted into hospital as the default option, to one where you're actually providing care in the community.
But hold on a second, we've only just coming out of the Lansley reforms, which were described as so big you can see from space. Are you saying these are bigger than those?
Yes, they are, because I think the Lansley reforms were really a rather old-fashioned form of change, because they were about simply making organisations in a different shape. I think what is being proposed here is something more fundamental, which is the way care is delivered. That will require changes in organisations. And as I think this has just been illustrated, it's also saying to existing organisations, you may have to sacrifice your own position, as it were, to the benefit of the system and to the benefit of patients. And I think that is going to be, enormously challenging. And all this is going on when our members are having to struggle on the other side with really quite restricted resources and huge increases in demand.
OK, but the reason for it is to save money. Will it result in savings?
I don't think it is just about saving money. There may be savings in money in developing some of these ideas. Some of them I don't think will save money, because care in the community is not always cheaper than care that's provided at hospital, but it is better and more effective for those who are being treated. In some cases, yes, it will save money, and certainly if we can get social care rather better provided than it is now, and that was partly what the money in the budget was about, then you can certainly relieve some of the pressure that we're currently seeing in hospitals.
And you talk about it being a fundamental change to the way that care is delivered. We had one example of it there. Typically, what will people notice as a result of this reorganisation?
I think over time people will notice that their GPs are operating less in isolation, that their practices are part of a larger organisation, that the links in our rather fragmented system start to get mended, and it's a big challenge. That's to say that the divisions between general practice on the one hand and hospitals on the other, between local authorities and the NHS, between community services and those GP services. We need to fix all those breakages, as it were, within the system and coordinate care which is in the interests of patients. And the kind of patients that we're now seeing, and again, very good illustration of it a moment or two ago, tends to be older people who've got often quite a few long-term conditions, and managing them is very different from the episodic, that's just a one-off treatment and we can deal with this. So we need to find better ways of helping those people in the community. And
the focus, the priorities which Simon Stevens is setting out today, he says there will be trade-offs, one of which is a relaxing of the waiting time target for non-urgent treatment. That's an acceptable thing to do, is it?
Well, I suspect relaxing the waiting time target or some other performance measures was inevitable given the current level of funding and the current level of demand. I think we should say, if you remember back to the year 2000 and so on, people were waiting 18 months and longer, and the NHS has delivered 18 weeks as a target. I think nobody wants to go back to that very, very long time, and I think there will be anxiety about that, but I think it's completely unreasonable to expect NHS services to provide everything when the restrictions on funding are very real and the demand is rising all the time.
Niall Dickson, thank you very much.